Hello students, welcome to our class on external affairs. So last class we saw the first part of India's external affairs for the CUT exam, and now today we will go for the second part of the external affairs. Here we will see about the India's relationship with Pakistan. Okay, so last class we spoke about how India's relationship was with China. So today with Pakistan, what happened? So it was a conflict. Basically, it started just after partition. We know that there was a problem, no, the conflict of Jammu and Kashmir. So it is clearly, stated in other chapters as well. We will just stick with the external affairs, right? The conflict started just after partition over the dispute of Jammu and Kashmir. A proxy war, basically, it broke out between India and Pakistan army in Jammu and Kashmir during the 1947 itself, but this does not turn into a full war. Okay, the issue was referred to the UN, so the issue went to the UN. The Kashmir conflict did not prevent cooperation between the governments of India and Pakistan. We know that what happened at the time, Raja Hari Singh was ruling Jammu and Kashmir. He was the ruler at that time, and Kashmir basically it signed in the instrument of accession with India. But at the same time, we saw that Pakistani army, the tribal people, they infiltrated in the Jammu and Kashmir, and that is the conflict. Okay, and we sent our army to Jammu and Kashmir by the because of the recommendation, the need which was asked by the ruler of Jammu and Kashmir. So that was the conflict that time, but this conflict did not prevent cooperation between the governments of India and Pakistan. Okay, so both the governments worked together to restore the women abducted during partition to their original families. We saw like 80 lakh people, basically 80 million. Okay, 80 lakh people, they migrated at that time. So many were women at that time, they were abducted. So the governments worked together to restore the women at that time. So a long-term dispute among the sharing of water, river water, was also resolved by mediation by the World Bank. The India-Pakistan Indus Waters Treaty between Nehru and General Ayub Khan in 1960, and despite all the ups and downs in the Indo-Pak relations, this treaty has worked well. So this can be a question for CUET, that who mediated the Indus Waters Treaty can be one question. The answer is the World Bank. Okay, and who are the leaders who signed the treaty? One side we have Jawaharlal Nehru, another side General Ayub Khan. And which year it happened? In 1960. Okay, so this can be a question from this slide. Okay, after Jawaharlal Nehru passed away, Lal Bahadur Shastri becomes the Prime Minister of India. So in April 1965, Pakistan launched armed attacks in the Ran of Kutch area of Gujarat. This was followed by a bigger offensive in the Jammu and Kashmir in August and September. So this was another attack by Pakistan. The Pakistani rulers were hoping to get support from the local population there, but it did not happen. So in order to ease the pressure on the Kashmiri front, Lal Bahadur Shastri, he ordered Indian troops to launch a counter-offensive on the Punjab border. In a fierce battle that took place at that time, the Indian army reached close to Lahore. So the hostilities came to an end with the UN intervention. So this happens in April 1965. Okay. Later, Indian Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri and Pakistan General Ayub Khan signed the Tashkent Agreement brokered by the Soviet Union in January 1966. So India could inflict considerable military loss on Pakistan. The 1965 war added to India's already difficult economic situation. Okay, so here we can see in which year this Tashkent agreement took place. This was a question in the last CUT exam as well. Okay, where it took place. Tashkent is in Soviet Union. It brokered basically. So Lal Bahadur Shastri was one side. We have our Prime Minister. Another side, General Ayub Khan was there. So it all happened because of Pakistan's attack on India in April 1965 on Ran of Kutch, and also a bigger offensive on Jammu Kashmir. So this we need to know from this. Tashkent Agreement is a very important subject, a content in which you can expect a question. Then again, very interesting part about Indo-Pak relations is about Bangladesh war, what happened in 1971. See, we know that we became republic in 1950, and our first general elections took place in 1951-52, which we call it as 1952 general elections. But in Pakistan, it did not happen like that. Okay, it became actually, an independent country 14th August 1947, but their first general elections took place only in the 1970. Okay, so the first general election had a split verdict basically. Basically, in the West Pakistan, meaning in today's Pakistan, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto's Pakistan, the party won there. And in the East Pakistan, which is today's Bangladesh, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's Awami League basically swept the elections. So the Bengali population of the East Pakistan had voted to protest against the years of being treated as a second-class citizen by the rulers based in the West Pakistan. We know that there is a language barrier between these two countries. The West Pakistan, mostly they speak Urdu and the Sindhi language, Punjabi language, whereas in the East Pakistan, Bengali was the predominant language. So they did not have no good relationship, and then Pakistani rulers were not willing to accept the democratic verdict at that time, nor were they ready to accept the Awami League. It was demanding a federation. So they did not accept that in this 90s election, 1970s election. So early 1971, the Pakistan army arrested even the Sheikh Mujibur Rahman of Awami League and unleashed a rage of terror on the people of East Pakistan, which is today's Bangladesh. So the people started struggling to liberate Bangladesh from Pakistan. Throughout 1971, what happened? India had to bear a burden of about 80 lakh refugees who fled East Pakistan and took shelter in the neighboring areas in India. You know that in Bangladesh, three sides, Bangladesh is surrounded by India. So all these people came to India as refugees, around 80 lakh people. So India extended moral and material support to the freedom struggle in the Bangladesh. Pakistan accused India of a conspiracy to break it up. So it was basically after 20 years, more than 20 years, they are having a first general election and split verdict came, and the the West Pakistan rulers, they were not agreed to accept the the election results of the East Pakistan. What happened during this time? Who were supporting India and who were against Pakistan? If you see, this is very interesting story. During this Bangladesh war, in the 1970s, you can see US and China. These two countries supported Pakistan. And the US-China rapprochement that began in the 1960s resulted in a realignment forces in Asia. Henry Kissinger, who was the advisor of the US President Richard Nixon, he made a secret visit to China also via Pakistan in July 1971. So in order to counter this, what we did? So India basically signed an agreement with USSR, 20 years treaty of peace and friendship agreement we signed with USSR in August 1971. So this treaty assured India of Soviet support if the country is faced by any attack. So this is how we counter the US and China coming together to support Pakistan at that time. So what happened was a history. So a full-scale war between India and Pakistan broke out in December 1971. Pakistani aircrafts, they attacked Punjab as well as Rajasthan, while the army moved on the Jammu and Kashmir front. So this is happening during 1971. You see, there was an issue with East Pakistan, but Pakistan was attacking India in the areas of Punjab and Rajasthan and also in the Jammu and Kashmir front. So India retaliated with an attack involving Air Force, Navy as well as the army on the both western and the eastern front, welcomed and supported by the local population. So in this army, very interesting in this war, interesting point is that the Bengali people of East Pakistan, they were in support of India. So all this local population welcomed Indian army, and Indian army made rapid progress in the East Pakistan. Within 10 days, the Indian army had surrounded Dhaka from three sides, and the Pakistani army of about 90,000 had to surrender. So with Bangladesh as a free country, India declared a unilateral ceasefire. Later the signing of Shimla Agreement took place between Indira Gandhi and Zulfikar Ali Bhutto on 3rd July 1972, which formalized the return of peace. So this is also a question in the last CUT about Shimla Agreement. When did it took place? 3rd July 1972. Who were the signatories? Indira Gandhi on one side and Zulfikar Ali Bhutto on the other. So this the Shimla Agreement took place after the Bangladesh War of 1971. What happened after these wars? So India with its limited resources had initiated development planning. As we know from the first chapter we saw that we had planning commission every 5 years, we started to have plans. But because of these conflicts, because of the war by China and wars which Pakistan imposed on us, so it affected greatly on our economy. So it derailed the 5-year plans also, and after this war, by our neighbors China and Pakistan, we had to give more of our, budget to military. So military modernization drive was also there, and the Department of Defense Production was established in November 1962. Defense production, basically India wanted to produce the defense product, and also Department of Defense Supply in November 1965. So these are the two important years and the departments which were established. And the third plan was affected, and it was followed by 3 annual plans. See, we know that the fourth plan was not there on the correct time. Okay, it was initiated only in the 1963, 3 years later. Okay, so India's defense expenditure increased enormously after this war. So we know that after third plan, 5-year plan, we had a plan holiday, and only in 1969 the fourth plan came about. Next thing I will talk about the Kargil conflict. So Kargil conflict happened in 1999. What happened at that time was, in the line of control, in sides of the Indian side of the line of control, the places called Mashko, Dras, Kaksar, Batalik areas, they were occupied by forces claiming to be Mujahideens. So suspecting the involvement of the Pakistani army, Indian forces started reacting to this occupation. So this led to a confrontation between the two countries. So this conflict went on during May and June of 1999, and by 29 July 1999, India had recovered control of many of the lost points. So this conflict remained confined only to the Kargil region, thankfully. So in Pakistan, this conflict was been a source of major controversy, because it was told that the Prime Minister of that country was unaware. He was kept in dark by the military of the Pakistan. Soon after the conflict, the government of Pakistan was overtaken by the general Parvez Musharraf of Pakistani army. So this is the conflict we need to know about this year 1999. It happened in which month? May and June, which were the areas, several points of the LOC which were attacked at that time, occupied by the forces, and who was the Army General of Pakistan at that time. Let us talk about India's nuclear policy. With this policy, we come to the conclusion of the chapter. So India's nuclear policy, basically, it started way back. Okay, Nehru, basically, he had always put his faith in science and technology and modernization of India. The nuclear program initiated in the late 1940s itself, under the guidance of Homi J. Bhabha. This can be one question for your CUT. Okay, under whose guidance the nuclear program was initiated? The answer is Homi J. Bhabha. India wanted to generate atomic energy for peaceful purposes. Nehru was against nuclear weapons, so he pleaded with the superpowers for the comprehensive nuclear disarmament. But what happened was, the 5 powers in the Security Council of the United Nations, they basically had all these nuclear weapons, and they wanted to have ban on the nuclear test on other countries. But India did not want this nuclear non-proliferation treaty. So we did not sign this in 1968 when the Security Council of UN. What are the countries which are there in the Security Council? Russia is there, China, US, UK and France. So all these five countries basically they have the nuclear weapons. And in 1968 they wanted to, all the countries in the world, they wanted other countries to sign this nuclear non-proliferation treaty. But India did not want this, no, it did not want to sign this because it saw it as a discriminatory in nature. So the first nuclear explosion undertook by India was in May 1974. So it was termed as a peaceful explosion using nuclear power only for peaceful purposes. So we have a policy that India will not use it for war. We will use nuclear power only for peaceful purposes. So we took that nuclear explosion in May 1974. But what happened next in the coming years was, even Pakistan also had these nuclear weapons. So we basically decided that we will not use the weapons first. Okay, in India had opposed for the international treaties and even non-proliferation treaty, since they were selectively applicable to the non-nuclear powers and legitimized the monopoly of the five nuclear weapons powers. Thus, India opposed the indefinite extension of NPT in 1995 and refused to sign again the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty. You see, nuclear non-proliferation treaty also we did not sign, and Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty also we did not sign it. So India conducted a series of nuclear tests in May 1998, demonstrating its capacity to use nuclear energy for military purposes. Soon Pakistan also followed. So this increased the vulnerability of the region to a nuclear exchange. So the international community was also extremely critical, okay, of this nuclear test. So sanctions were imposed both on India as well as Pakistan, but subsequently they were waived. So India's nuclear doctrine of credible minimum nuclear deterrence professes no first use. So this is a very important point in our nuclear program, that India will be having no credible minimum nuclear deterrence. And also we will not use it first, no first use. So this reiterates India's commitments to global, verifiable and non-discriminatory nuclear disarmament, leading to nuclear weapons free world. So we are for nuclear weapons free world, but it should be, the commitment is for global, verifiable and non-discriminatory. It should not be like the five powers in the Security Council only should have this and other countries could not have. No, it is India thinks it as a discriminatory in nature. So we want a non-discriminatory policy on nuclear weapons. Hence today India possesses nuclear weapons, but we will not use it because we have a policy of no first use. Okay. So now let us come to the latest era after 1970s. What happened? There is a shifting of foreign affairs alliances happened. Okay, so many non-Congress governments came to power in the period starting 1977. We know this year is very important. 1977, after the emergency, there was an election. So Janata Party, the government came to power, and it said like we will follow a genuine non-alignment. We know that we were the part of non-alignment movement. We were the founders, co-founders of non-alignment movement. But there was, we were slightly, pro-USSR at that time. So Janata Party said we will use, genuine non-alignment. So this implied that the pro-Soviet tilt in the foreign policy will be corrected. So since then, all the governments after 1977, we see the Congress and non-Congress have taken initiative for restoration, better relations with China and entering into close ties with US. So foreign policy is all about, it is dictated by the ideas of national interest. So in the period after 1990, when USSR got disintegrated, so basically we focused more on US rather than USSR, because Russia, it lost its global preeminence. It was not just military which does everything, but there was economic power is also needed. Hence, US was more economically viable at that time, and our foreign policy tilted towards pro-US. So it was basically the change in our shifting of alliances. It happened slowly 1977 till as in 1990s when USSR disintegrated, our strategy also changed. So that's all for today's class. In today's class, we have seen about the relationship with India and Pakistan. What are the wars that happened? About Bangladesh war also we saw, and about Kargil war also we have seen, and about the nuclear proliferation treaty. And these are the contents which are there in the 4th chapter of Indian politics since independence. There is another book, okay, like contemporary world politics. There also we will be speaking about Indian foreign policy in length. Okay, so in today's class, whatever we have told you, just note it down, and questions can come from this chapter. Very important is the Tashkent Agreement and the Kargil, or when it took place, the Indus Water Treaty, who were the signatories and which year it took place, and nuclear non-proliferation treaty, when did it happen. So all these questions are very important. Thank you.